Want to hear about an amazing story of our friend Kelly and her journey with celiac disease? Stay tuned for this next episode of Digest This.
Welcome to Digest This, the show that helps you revolutionize your digestive health. Here are your hosts, Dr. Liz Cruz and Tina Nunziato.
Hello and welcome to Digest This. I'm Dr. Liz Cruz and I've got my wife Tina Nunziato sitting right here by my side. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are one of our regular listeners, we thank you for being on this journey with us. And if you're one of our first-time listeners, welcome. And please check out our library. We have over 500 episodes that we've been creating for over 10 years. Yes, we've been doing this for over 10 years. So we are very excited that you're here with us because today we have a very special guest, our very special friend. She's not just anyone. This is our very special friend, Kelly Voorhees, and we want to bring her on. She's here with us already, and we want to talk with Kelly about her journey. She has an amazing story. So Kelly, welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here and to share my story. I really appreciate you having me. You do such amazing things for natural healing and just for people's health in general. And I just really appreciate all you do.
Oh, thank you, Kelly.
Yes, we had a ladies' night recently, and Kelly was there, and a lot of stuff came out during the ladies' night, and we thought we have to have Kelly on a podcast. I mean, one, she inspired one of our previous podcasts that we just posted, the one "It's All in Your Head," which I'm sure she's going to talk about on this journey because she had that said to her many times. So
Yeah.
So we're definitely excited. We have a lot of patients and clients that have celiac.
So many.
So it is important to hear someone else's journey so that they know that they're not alone and that, this is what they might experience while they're going through this process.
Exactly. And actually, living with it, because I've always been amazed and admire Kelly's discipline in regards to taking care of herself, but it doesn't keep her from enjoying life. And so I'm sure that there's a story with that on how you've learned how to manage your diagnosis, okay, how to manage it and how to live with it. You're a very social person, so you have a lot of friends. So I'm sure that people are always questioning you, and you're constantly having to be on the lookout to take care of yourself. And but yet you have such a great outlook. And so we want to hear your story. So tell us a little bit about, how far back does this date to when you started having issues?
When I really think back, it's probably been almost lifelong. But when it really, really started to manifest was in my early 20s, out 22, 23. I was working construction. So I'd first moved to Phoenix. I was a framer. So I was building houses. So best shape of my life. And all of a sudden, after about a year and a half of that, I started having heart attack symptoms. And I went to the urgent care and they sent me to the ER. And because they found something in my EKG that looked off. And so I was there overnight and they did all the tests and all that. Nothing wrong with me. Okay.
So
great.
was that just like heart, like pain, breathing? What were the symptoms that you were experiencing?
It was pain in my chest, the breathing, difficulty breathing. I felt really dizzy. I felt like I was going to pass out. So things like that.
Okay.
And then so they sent me home, with a bottle of nitrous and said, or with a prescription for nitrous and said, if it happens again, take one of these and come back. So I kept trying to work. And that's when I got really incredible fatigue, exhaustion, brain fog, and insomnia. And then I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk for about 3 months. I had severe joint pain in my knees and just the exhaustion. Like I couldn't physically make myself move. And I tried. I tried because everybody I went to said, oh, yeah, it's in your head. And
Oh
So
so
my
I
how long
goodness.
finally,
so how long was that from the time you originally went to the ER with the chest issues? Could you then not walk? How long is that span of
it was
time, would you say?
quick. It was really, really quick. It was probably a couple weeks.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is, and you're in your 20s at this
Hmm.
point.
Early
Yes.
20s, 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So then what, I mean,
Yeah.
those
That's
are
pretty
pretty
severe.
severe type symptoms. And so go ahead. I'm just curious what happened.
Yeah, for sure. So I finally found a rheumatologist who diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. And I was told, so much of it was stress. I was given some muscle relaxers that luckily they didn't make me loopy. So I was able to take them during the day. So I was able to build myself back up. I had to give up my job. I'd had to give up my apartment. I moved back with my parents. I moved out when I was 17. So moving back in was an adjustment, but I was grateful to have it. Um,
Kelly, did
and
they,
yeah,
when you went to the rheumatologist, I mean, I'm going to assume they did blood work on you.
I had had blood work done. I'd had
Okay.
blood work done by that point because I'd been to a few different doctors and they all were telling me there was nothing wrong with me. And so at this point, I thought I was dying. I'm writing letters to people. If you find this, I love you.
Oh,
Like
wow. Wow,
it was
Kelly.
terrifying. But so when I finally got the fibromyalgia diagnosis, I really focused on minimizing my stress, things like that. And then fast forward a couple of years and I was in a relationship and found out that I had endometriosis. And so I'd had the fibromyalgia, which now
Diagnosis.
I know it. Yeah. But
But
Mhm.
were you on muscle relaxers that whole time, like for those 2 years?
no, no, they
Okay.
actually discontinued the muscle relaxer that I was on because it
Mm.
caused heart problems or something like that. So I think I was on that for mm, a year maybe.
Okay.
Um, but I only took it when it was really bad.
Okay.
So, and I could feel when I had higher stress, the symptoms would manifest.
Okay.
So how long
But
did
I
it take before you recovered and were able to walk around and get back to your normal life?
It was probably 5 months or so.
Okay.
Yeah, total. From the time it all started till then. And so I was able to start working. I landed a new career, a different path that led me to the journey that I've been on now, career-wise, which I'm grateful for. So a couple of years after that, I was in a relationship, find out I have endometriosis, and so had a laparoscopy and got cleaned out. Then about 6 months later, had another one, got cleaned out again, and then they put me on something to put me into pseudomenopause, and they said that would take care of it. Well, about 9 months after, they had to clean me out again. It had come
Mm.
back even worse. And so at that point, they told me that if I didn't have children, I wouldn't. If I didn't try then, because it just was so severe and would continue. And so,
Were you having pain and heavy bleeding? Is that okay?
yeah, a lot of pain. And so this is where I say I think that it does go back to way before even these big symptoms, because I had, even in high school, just really, really painful periods to the point where they had put me on birth control, but that gave me migraines. So I had to stop that. Um, yeah, so a lot of pain, a lot of severe pain with intercourse. Um, all of those things.
Hmm.
Um, so at that time, I'd been with my partner for about 2 years, and so came home crying, right? And because I always wanted to be a mom, and um, they just basically told me that if you don't do it right now, you're not going to do it, and that was a really hard thing for me to hear. Um, and so I talked to my partner, and we said, "Well, all right, let's try." And of course, the next morning, I'm like, "Oh, let's wait until after the holidays," but it was too late. So,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, I was
Myrtle,
cleaned out
Myrtle.
and ready.
You're cleaned out. The cradle was ready.
Exactly, exactly. It made room. So it was a good pregnancy. It was Foster. He came out healthy, albeit 2.5 weeks late. He was
Mhm.
cozy in that cleaned out womb, but he was super healthy, and it was not a challenging pregnancy. I did eat a lot of fast food at that time. That's all I craved. But so with Foster, after having him, it was a good 3.5 years or so where I had no symptoms. I did really well. And so I thought that, maybe this is it, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came back, and they came back pretty brutally. And so, and mind you, with those symptoms, it's also that brain fog, right? And it's also the fatigue, and that's hard when you're a new mom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so had another laparoscopy, and then we decided, okay, we're gonna try again.
Mm-hmm.
And since I had just been cleaned out, had a nice welcoming space. Now Cyrus's that his pregnancy, that one was a lot harder. That one I actually only craved like vegetables and was, took really good care of myself during that one. But about 11 weeks before my due date, I started having preterm labor. And so they were able to stop the labor and they put me on bed rest. 5.5 weeks in, they couldn't stop the labor anymore. And so he came 5.5 weeks early, and he was in the NICU for a week. He was the biggest baby in the NICU. He was 6 pounds, 7 ounces. But yeah, everybody was looking at me like, why is your kid in here? But his lungs hadn't developed.
Baby.
He was a little bigger. I think he was 7'6".
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so luckily once Cyrus's lungs developed, he was healthy. Yeah, so they both ended up being emergency C-sections, but after Cyrus, it came back right away. And so 2 laparoscopies later, and then the doctors told me you have to have at least a partial hysterectomy. And I knew deep down that that was not going to fix it, but I was desperate. And at that point, I had wanted
How
more
did you
kids.
know? How did you
How
know?
did I know? I had been doing a little bit of research, and because I would be keeping my ovaries and the estrogen and all that it was more regulated. It's not as regulated by your uterus and cervix. It's regulated by other things in your body, was my understanding. And Liz, you're the doctor, so please stop me if I say anything that is incorrect, because so
No,
much
no.
is just like my
Yeah.
research and my theories. But so I knew, I deep down, but I was so desperate that I did it. And that was, so Cyrus was a little over a year at that point. And so, oh no, he wasn't even quite a year yet, because that was April. Sorry, getting my timelines mixed up. So he wasn't quite a year. So I had my hysterectomy and just still felt off, wrong. It wasn't right. So I can't remember if I had another laparoscopy in between or if I just went straight to the specialist in Salt Lake in November. So April to November. There was probably another laparoscopy in between there. And so I went to Salt Lake for my final surgery, which was they removed my appendix, my abdominal lining, and they did all the ablations of all the lesions that all the endometriosis that they found. And so I got home and I just was not healing, and it was miserable. And so that's when I really did a deep dive into what caused endometriosis. And I found what I believe to be a correlation between celiac disease and endometriosis. And so I took it to my doctor and I said, test me. And I remember the exact place I was standing when they called me for my results. I was standing, we were down here visiting for Halloween, and I was standing in the Target holding a bag of M&Ms that are clearanced out, on November 1st. And they said, you need to stop eating gluten right now. And I'm like, oh, what are my results? And so the test that they gave me was a simple blood test. And if you were over 13, you were celiac. I was 164.
Wow.
Holy cow.
And so I set down the M&Ms, had a little cry, partly because I finally had an answer. So yes, it was a shock. but it was also this, I've been dealing with this for over 10 years
Yeah.
cry of, I finally know and I can finally take charge, and it's something I can change and not be medicated for.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge, huge thing. And so since it's hereditary, I had the whole family tested. Foster, who had zero symptoms that we knew of, now looking back, we can kind of recognize a few things.
Mm-hmm.
He was 10 points below me.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
so he was off the
Off the
off the
chart.
he
chart
was off the
also.
chart too.
And
So,
and the day I just want to just kind of go back and ask you a quick question. So 10 years prior, you had not, when they did a bunch of blood work, nobody ever tested you for celiac with
no,
the, okay.
no.
And I will say that 20 years ago, yeah, about 20 years ago, when I was going to GI conferences, they were really encouraging us. Probably, actually, it was, yeah, probably like 20 years ago. That's when they really started pushing us to start checking celiac markers,
Really?
blood work,
Wow.
even on stuff that didn't fit the picture as far as symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like
Yeah,
fatigue and brain fog. Like back then, nobody would have been like, "Oh, let's check for celiac." But it's
yeah.
just that they realized that it was just a very underdiagnosed disease.
But you never, Kelly, you never
Yeah.
went to see a gastroenterologist during all of this, right?
I did for the, oh, well, later. There's more.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I hadn't. I hadn't. There is additional part of the journey, what the celiac actually did. So yeah, I no, I hadn't been tested, and I realized too at that time they still thought it was super rare, right? I remember looking at some natural uh, book that I had that my grandmother had given me, and they said they had celiac in there as some childhood
Mm-hmm.
disease that less than 1% of the population has, or something like that. And we
Right.
know so much more now, right?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah. So the initial diagnosis, again, while it was a relief to have a diagnosis and be able to take control myself, was huge. But I remember that Thanksgiving, a month less than a month later, standing in the grocery store, just bawling my eyes out because I
Mhm.
didn't know what I was going to make for dinner.
Yeah.
Every
Mm-hmm.
single thing had gluten in
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And I lived in a really tiny town in northern Arizona near the Utah border. And so we didn't have access to like the health food stores or anything like that. And even then it was so rare to be able to find something even in the health food stores. So
Mhm.
I really had to, like, I was blending my own flours. There wasn't a 1-to-1 mix yet, which is amazing now. But and trying to have a sense of normalcy for Foster, who was just a little
Mhm.
guy, he's five
Mhm.
years old with this diagnosis, that
Oh my goodness.
wanting to go to birthday parties. So
Sure.
sending him with his own cupcake, like just doing things like that to try to make sure that he wasn't left out and
Mhm.
that he didn't feel um, uh,
Ostracized.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
ostracized. Yeah. And he did really well with it. We actually had a little a little YouTube channel when YouTube was just getting started. We only did, I think, two or three, but it was gluten free can be great. And so we did a little
Cool.
made
That's
some
cool.
made some little recipes and did that. But anyway,
So
yeah, so
having to learn how to live with that. I mean, it's different. You're an adult, right? But oh my
But
goodness.
still, even back then, like
Yeah.
you said, not having the resources that we have now,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
the food choices that we have now, because so many people have it, the food
mhm,
manufacturers are like, okay, we
Yeah.
better, it's a whole market segment now.
right.
Yeah.
Right, right. And I mean, unfortunately, they've taken it and run with it to a less healthy
Right.
place. There's plenty of cookies out there.
Sure.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
but it is nice to have. It's nice to have the options. Yeah. But so at that
So,
time, oh, go ahead.
okay. No, go ahead.
So I had a big 2,400 square foot garden, and so that helped too. So we had a lot of just organically grown natural foods all the time, and I did canning and all that stuff. So we did have a lot of options there, and pasta and rice, those were, easy things to come up with when we didn't have just quit eating so much bread. um
Great. You're so good. You are. I mean, Kelly just recently brought us like two the jars,
jars
the
freeze
mason
dried.
jar of freeze-dried mango and was it pineapple?
Yeah.
And like you're just so good. I mean, that's awesome. Going to that level, doing your own garden.
So Kelly, once you came off of gluten, did you start feeling better right away?
So, no, here's what happened.
Hmm.
My diagnosis took so long that my villi was destroyed, right? So that impacts everything else.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so then I start having this um, difficulty swallowing. So I go
Hmm.
back to the doctor. What's going on? Right. And he's like, oh, it's bolus or globus, something like that. It's probably due to stress. And yes, like, mind you, stress kills. Stress is
Hmm.
horrible and it does terrible things to our bodies. But I knew it was more than that. So I, at this point, was just really frustrated and like, okay, this is a whole body thing. This is not an individual symptom. My knee, my stomach, it's a whole body thing that's going on here. And so I found an internist in St. George, Utah, and I thought, okay, this person is going to look at the big picture. And I was really excited. I'm taking control. And so I wrote him a letter about 3 weeks before my appointment. And I did a whole timeline. I did an outline of every single thing, like in my whole life, my journey, right? I get there and he completely dismissed me. He
Hmm.
focused on that I had smoked, something like that, yelling at me. It was awful. And basically told me it was in my head again. And then I got him, though, to request the scope. And so went into the GI. This is when I finally got to see the
Okay.
Was
GI.
that your first scope? The first
It was
time?
it was the first, yeah. hmm
Okay.
Um, I'd had colonoscopy in those scopes before, but this
Okay.
was my
But when they did
first
your
confirmed.
diagnosis with the blood work at that point, you didn't have a
Right.
scope at that moment, at that point in
No,
time.
yeah, I didn't. It was so far off the chart that it wasn't necessary.
Hmm.
Yeah. So they came back, the scope came back with eosinophilic esophagitis.
Mm,
And so the GI said, okay, well, I'm going to give you a prescription and you can just take this and you'll be fine. And I said, because so with the eosinophilic esophagitis, and you can definitely explain this better than I can,
mhm.
Liz, but so when I would eat certain foods, my throat would basically close up. Like
Yeah.
my esophagus would swell
Hmm.
and tighten. And so he said it was because of food allergies. I said, well, how about I just don't eat those foods? I don't want to be on medication. And he said, that would be too hard. And I said, watch me. Because at that point I was just so I was angry. I was
Yeah.
Hmm.
angry with how I was being treated. I was angry about being completely dismissed. And then when they do find the diagnosis, they want to just put a band-aid on it instead of
Sure.
fix it.
Yeah.
And so I went to an allergist to find out all the allergies. And what I realized is because, and again, Liz, please stop me if, like, because this was
Sure.
all my theories, right? Is that because my villi had been destroyed, everything I was eating was, I had leaky gut. And
Right.
so everything I was
Let me
eating, my
let me
immune
interrupt
system,
because
oh, go
you
ahead.
you
Yeah.
said the word villi
Yeah.
two times, and I want to make sure people understand what that is.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so
Yeah.
so we all have these finger-like projections in our small bowel that are basically the way that we absorb vitamins and minerals. So when you have celiac, it basically kind of cuts them off, right? So you just kind of like what Kelly's saying, they just get destroyed, and it makes it really hard for you to digest and absorb vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, and what's actually being seen. So when I do the endoscopy on some patients, so here's the thing. When you go into the small intestine and you see those villi, they're gorgeous. They're beautiful. These little just very tiny little
Finger-like
finger-like
projections.
projections. And it's just amazing, right, how our body is made and that the
Yep.
absorption of the nutrients is happening through all of that. Sometimes on some patients who have celiac disease or even gluten sensitivity, you'll see there, you can actually see changes in that where I can visually see it, where the little villi are just not as prominent looking. And then when the microscopic, with the pathologist looks at it, there's different readings that they'll make because there are classifications. But like a total blunting, this is what the word that they use is villus blunting, is
Ooh,
where
okay.
basically the villi is, blunted all the way down, and it doesn't have its normal architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And but sometimes you may not necessarily see villus blunting. You may just see infiltration of increased cells, lymphocytes that are in there. And sometimes that's the clue. Like the villus architecture may be good, but now what you see is just like that infiltration of those abnormal cells that are in there. And that could be a clue that stuff is starting to happen. And you might start to get villus
Interesting.
blunting. So there's actually
Like a
staging,
process.
a
Yeah.
process on how they look at that. They have a Marsh classification, and
But to Kelly's point, because she'd been dealing with it for so long
Right.
and it hadn't been diagnosed, it's like just this ongoing torture
Exactly.
happening to the body, which is now causing leaky gut and all these other symptoms. And the more
Exactly.
leaky gut you have, the more food sensitivities you have. And so, yes,
And so with
your
the
thought process was correct.
It was absolutely. So with the eosinophilic esophagitis, it's interesting because in the esophagus, when you have that, you're actually dealing with a different type of white blood cell. Okay. In the duodenum, the small intestine, it's these lymphocytes that start to accumulate. In the esophagus, the eosinophilics are the eosinophil white cell. It's a specific white cell where you start seeing this infiltration on the biopsies of these eosinophils, and they cause inflammation. They're trying, you've got this inflammatory reaction going on. And so it's exactly, your theory was right on spot, and it's sad that GI told you that, because actually who it's hard for is the GI, because they obviously just didn't want to deal with, we've got to find answers, get to the root cause, which means putting some effort into it and doing some counseling, but getting to the root cause, which is your food sensitivities or allergies or even environmental. Some people have environmental sensitivities
Oh, yeah.
and allergies, and getting to the bottom of that. But healing the gut is number one. Because if you're not absorbing those nutrients, I mean, now it's your body was just basically like in a vicious cycle.
Right.
So
Exactly.
good job, Dr. Voorhees, for diagnosing again.
That's awesome.
Sorry, you find out you have a ton of
Ton.
allergies, whatever.
Everything-
Okay, so what was there anything left for you to eat? Because we have patients who get that food sensitivity test done and everything comes back high and they're like crying over the phone. What am I going to eat?
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, I could eat chicken, rice, and broccoli. And
Okay.
So,
That sounds like Keone's diet right now. So he eats every meal.
yeah. So they put me actually on a prescription formula to supplement.
Mhm. Okay.
And so I was on that for, I believe, about a year. It was 9 months to a year.
What was it?
And,
Mental type formula that they had you on, like just very nutrient dense?
yeah, I can't remember the name of it. It was really gross. I remember I
Was
was,
it really sweet?
there were a couple different flavors. There was like a tropical flavor. I
Can
can't
imagine.
remember. But yeah, I remember I had to get it from the pharmacy. It was a prescription. It was,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And I was teased relentlessly. I
By
was
who? By
by coworkers. I
oh yeah.
was the broccoli girl, and I'm like, okay, well, but yeah, basically everything that I had.
Liz used to be called the rabbit because she'd bring a salad.
That's
every day
exactly
for us.
right. When we started our journey on this nutrition and wellness, and we changed our diet drastically, yeah, they would call me the rabbit because of the food.
People are so mean.
They are.
What do you mean out there to people that are dealing with digestive issues?
Exactly. You don't know. You don't know
Exactly.
what people are going
Okay,
through.
so you were on that stuff for a year, and then what happened?
And
Did you start feeling
honestly,
better?
that after that year, like it was amazing. You know, the brain fog lifted, the joint pain lifted, the endometriosis was
Cleared
gone.
up.
And I, knock on wood, have not had an
So
issue with
how many years ago
endometriosis.
was that?
Oh my gosh. It was over 15. It's
Okay,
over
Okay.
15 years.
so 15 years of
Yeah.
feeling better.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't easy. It was
Mhm.
definitely not easy. It was incredibly challenging and lonely. The whole process is super lonely because you're being told that whole time that it doesn't exist. There's nothing wrong with you. Deal with it.
Mhm.
Suck it up. And
Wow.
so I did find some solace. There was a community of families that were dealing with rare diseases on Facebook, and a lot of them were eosinophilic esophagitis type things. And so I did find,
Rare disease back then.
Wow.
Now I feel like everyone's being diagnosed with EOE now.
So
It's crazy.
common.
yeah. And I do have to wonder, this is a little off topic sort of, but I have to wonder how much is what we've done to our food supply.
Sure.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, they didn't have these issues. You didn't have celiac and, even gluten intolerances, 30, 40 years ago. It's just our food has changed
I mean,
so
celiac
much.
was considered more of a rare disease, like you mentioned earlier. But like I said, even 20 years ago, they were encouraging us to check blood work, for celiac on anyone that came in with almost any symptom,
That's
even
amazing.
low energy, because nobody was going to think about celiac in someone who had fatigue and low energy, because if you didn't have the classic symptom of diarrhea, weight loss. I mean, those were the classic symptoms. Now doing this for over 20 years, there is no classic symptom. It could be someone who doesn't even have any symptoms, maybe comes to us because they have anemia, because
Yeah.
now their small intestine is not absorbing iron and they have no symptoms. And then I go in, do the endoscopy, do biopsies, we do blood work, and lo and behold, they have celiac. So the spectrum of from no symptoms to severe symptoms and severe, just very sick. I mean, it's out there. I mean, some people get so sick they have to be treated with steroids. I mean, that's not the common thing, fortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so over the years we just started, checking blood work, even on people coming in with whatever.
And now it's becoming more common. That diagnosis,
Mhm.
EOE, Barrett's esophagus, I feel like it's almost like every other person is being diagnosed with these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the testing is so important. And one thing that I was trying to advocate for 15 years ago was just have it be a basic test, even for kids. Because, like,
Mhm.
with Foster, one of the things, like I mentioned, is there were things that now that we know he had it, we could look back and go, oh, that was maybe like he was a little bit short, right?
Mhm.
Failure to thrive. I mean, that's very common for celiac. We were brushing his teeth since before he had teeth, right? And flossing, everything. And he, at about 3 years old, had to have crowns on like all of his teeth, all his
Wow.
back teeth. And I'm just sitting there crying, feeling like I'm the worst mom in the world. And I
Mhm.
felt like the dentists, they were all judging me because of this.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that was, just me, but just feeling so awful. But if he's not absorbing his calcium and his nutrients, where is it going to come from? It's going to get
Yeah.
sucked right out of your teeth and bones, right?
Yep.
And I think back to, like, I broke both of my arms at different times in my
Hmm.
youth on things that I probably shouldn't have. So it just makes you think about,
Mhm.
if you're thinking that you're taking all these supplements and you're eating all these good foods, if you're not absorbing it, you're still going to have these issues. It is like, to your point, you have to heal that gut.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually wonderful that the gut does have that ability to heal. Like those villi come back.
Yeah.
They come back. You baby and care for that gut and give it what it needs and take away what is hurting it, and those villi will grow back.
It's remarkable. The body is
Yeah,
remarkable.
Yeah, our bodies are
yeah.
very amazing. Yeah.
Yep. And
So
also the
crazy.
EOE, the eosinophilic esophagitis will heal up, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
it's to me that's always a thing of beauty too, you know? If that person has done what they need to do and gets worked up, and if they have sensitivities or allergies, which I think sensitivities are much more common than the allergies just because of our diets. But
Yeah.
as long as they eliminate, and doesn't mean that they have to be off of it forever. We just need to give the intestine time to heal up.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I've been able to reintroduce almost everything. The only thing, gluten I'll never be able to bring back, which that's fine. But and nuts. Like I still have a severe allergy to all nuts.
Mhm.
I was able to start eating cashews, which is pretty exciting, but but all other nuts, like I went and had my testing done about a year ago, again, just
Mhm.
to see where I was, because I do miss almonds, But I've been able to bring everything back. Like all my old markers are gone. I mean,
That's awesome.
and
So
and
great.
seriously, it was everything. I mean, potatoes, zucchini, corn, like
Mhm.
everything. So
The poster child for everything we preach.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
So happy for you.
Yeah.
thank
So
you.
great,
Thank you.
Kelly. So living with it then now, I mean, I know that you're very careful, when we go out and when we've had our ladies' nights. I mean, you're very aware of the menu, and so how would you say life is for you now in after all these years and everything that you went through?
That- it is kind of the norm for me
Hmm.
now. You get used to it. I have so many people say, "Oh, I could never get rid of gluten." Like, yes, you can. It's like anything else. You get used to it and you will feel so much better for it. Especially, not having the brain fog is a huge, huge
Hmm.
thing. Not having all of it, any of it is
Yeah.
Yeah.
amazing. And so it's
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
worth it. And when I do get glutened, I know right away. I had two incidents about 2 years ago within a month of each other, at restaurants that had listed things specifically as gluten free, and it was like the most severe food poisoning. It was so awful
Wow.
for
Can you
two
imagine
days
we're eating
each.
like that for all those years,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
it was
Yeah.
awful, awful, awful. And if you think about it, I mean, it is a poison for you, right?
Yeah.
If your
Yeah.
body's gonna, if you're celiac, you're poisoning yourself. And
Exactly.
that's why some people, they'll do their cheat day. Like, no, no, and that sticks with you for how many months? It's like three
Yeah.
months or something, right?
Yes.
So, like, if you have a cheat day once a week, like, exponentially.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Everything we put in our mouth counts. It really does. So that's amazing. What about for Foster? How's it been for him? I mean, he grew up starting from a young age having to modify his diet. Is it at this point pretty much just the norm for him also?
it is. I think that going off to college, because he just graduated NAU, um,
Hmm.
I think he is less careful. He doesn't have as severe of reactions, but I always remind him, hey, it's still
Hmm.
damaging. So,
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
just
like he
because,
hasn't been damaging himself since he was young, like you have, right? And
right?
there is a little forgiveness in there, I feel like, with the body, but
Yeah,
then it gets overwhelmed, right? So yeah, you do
yeah,
really have to be careful.
yeah. But I think for him, fortunately, I think his not being as careful is more on a contamination issue and
Hmm.
not like eating a piece of regular bread.
Hmm.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Did you guys get tested for genetics, like your mom, or any genetic testing to see if there was some mutation that was being passed on?
No, I did encourage my mom to get tested, and I believe that she did. I honestly don't remember. I know you guys have worked a lot with her, which I really appreciate. It's
Mhm.
been
Yeah.
life-changing for her, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So if you ever want to have her story, like,
Yeah. We should have her
like,
on.
yeah, But no, we did not have genetic testing, but I encouraged my grandma to get tested and my brother's family to well, three of my brothers, their kids to get tested, but nobody has. I know I do have a niece with gluten sensitivity. I don't know if she was ever tested for celiac or not, but yeah, it is a
Wow.
thing.
What a journey, Kelly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you
yeah,
for
thank you
sharing it
so
with
much
us.
Thank
for
you.
sharing it, for being, so open and, because
Of
there's, I mean, these stories are always so important for other people to know that they're not alone, and and we're all on this journey together. So we're here
Right.
to help each other, encourage each other. We really appreciate you. We love you, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. I love you guys too. I will say really quick, if I can give a tip for
Sure,
those
please.
on this journey, that one, it will be okay. It will be okay. And two, the more you can put into planning, the better off you're going to be. Because I think in our society, we get so stressed out and, oh crap, what's for dinner?
Mhm.
And go through a drive through. And so you don't think about things. And the more you can plan and meal prep and be prepared, like if I am concerned about an event or a dinner, I'll eat ahead of time. And
Mhm.
then, I'll have maybe just water or, a beverage or something when I go. And I bring protein bars. Keep protein bars in my bag if I'm going to go somewhere that I'm not sure that we're going to be able to have food. Like my family, we
Mhm.
went to Europe a few years ago, and the family, everybody was really mad at me because I packed these giant Ziploc bags full of beef jerky and protein bars and, every snack that you can
Awesome. Good.
imagine. Like, yeah, because I didn't know. And we
Sure.
ate every single bit of it. So, I
Yeah.
think just take the time to be prepared. It does take time and it takes energy, but you will be so much happier that you did.
Yeah.
That's my
That's such a great tip. Such a great
Mhm.
tip because it's so true. I mean, you have to, and we've talked about this before on our podcast, that if you are not intentional about it, and for, pack your lunch when you're going to go to work, when you're going to go to work or have snacks, it's true. When you are starving,
You're going to make a bad
you're
choice
going to
every
make a bad choice because you're going
Yeah.
to like
Mhm.
whatever's around you. So it's such a great
Exactly.
tip. I do have a question for you. Since alcohol is such an important part of our society, you know, I know that you do drink some, drink on occasion, but can you just talk a little bit about that and how you manage that?
As far as with
Like what you
celiac
can drink
disease?
alcohol well, right, right.
Oh
Like, yeah,
yeah,
like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
drink?
sure.
Hmm.
There's a lot of alcohol is gluten free. I tend to stick with like wine, or I will have a seltzer, but I'm starting to avoid that now because I found out that there's BPA in the lining of the cans on most beverages that are canned. So I'm trying to avoid that a little bit too. And maybe you guys could do a BPA one sometime
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I'm
I
very
would
curious
that's
about
a
that.
good podcast idea.
exactly.
Yeah. Um, but a lot of it, I say do your homework. There are some really good gluten-free beers out there. I'll have those every once in a blue moon because I do enjoy a good beer. That was
Mhm.
a sad thing for me to give up, but there are a few really good ones out there, and so every 6 months or so, I'll splurge and get some beer. But I mostly stick to wine.
Mhm.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. Good to know. Good to know.
yeah.
All right.
You don't have to
Any
give up everything,
Right?
right?
Yes, and I think
Although,
that's what listeners want to hear.
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
moderation.
That's awesome. Any other
Yeah.
tips?
Um, I think the big one was preparation. 'Cause I have pretty severe food anxiety. Because
Hmm.
I don't want to be hungry. I get hangry, and
Mhm.
I want to make sure that,
Me
and
too,
just same
girl.
with the kids.
Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Just be the big one is be prepared. And I've had a lot of people ask if they can contact me, or a lot of people have just been referred to me to just talk to because it
Yeah.
is such a scary thing when you first get started. And you do feel so alone, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
Liz. And so I would recommend talk to somebody like you guys, but just,
Sure.
pick
Mm-hmm.
up the phone and know that you're not alone. And there are so many people out there going through this, and you don't have to start from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Go to your experts, talk to Tina and
Mm-hmm.
talk to your friends. I guarantee there are more people going through this. You don't have to go through it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Amen to that.
Yes.
And to what Kelly said, if you want to connect with us, if you have any questions or concerns or fears, or you're just worried, whatever it is, you can reach out to us. Go to our website, drlizcruz.com, and there's a magenta color button on the homepage that you can click and schedule a free 30-minute wellness consult. It's free. It's our gift to you. And you can do it from anywhere in the world because it's done over the phone. So please, please, you're not alone. Don't feel alone. Reach out to us. We love to hear from you. And if you haven't rated our podcast, please rate it. Please give it a 5. It's going to help other people to find us quicker. And to hear these amazing stories, Kelly's story. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. All right. Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank
Tina and
you.
I love you. We're so appreciative. We appreciate you so much. And thank you for taking the time.
Thank
And
you. I
we'll catch
appreciate
you
you.
all on the next podcast.
Thank you for joining Dr. Liz Cruz and Tina Nunziato. To learn more about their revolutionary products and services, go online to www.drlizcruz.com.